I'm grateful you joined tonight. Your nervous system has been working overtime to keep you safe, scanning for danger even when there is none. Tonight, you'll discover why some experiences overwhelm while others don't. And by the end, you'll understand that carrying weight isn't weakness. It's evidence of your incredible strength. Welcome to Sleepy Mind Science. Wherever you are right now, perhaps feeling that familiar tension in your shoulders, or noticing how hard it is to truly relax, allow yourself to rest in this safe space. We'll journey through 100 psychology facts about the weight we carry, from the moment stress becomes too much to bear, to how your brain learned to protect you, to the quiet healing happening even now as you breathe. This thoughtful journey builds bridges between searching minds. A gentle subscribe, like, or quiet share helps others who've carried too much find this sanctuary, one sleepy soul at a time. Your presence here matters. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench, your breath deepen naturally. You can let these thoughts drift past without holding them. Sense that soothing heaviness enveloping you, like your consciousness slowly dimming its brightness. Thoughts dissolving into the peaceful fog of approaching sleep, safe and undisturbed. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're resting where exhaustion finally meets permission to stop. Let your mind release with gentle acceptance. And now we begin. Too much isn't actually about the amount of stress you experienced. It's about the gap between what happened and the support you had to process it. According to research published in the Journal of Traumatic Stress in 2025, psychological overwhelm occurs when demands exceed your available resources. Not just external resources like money or safety, but internal ones like emotional regulation skills, a sense of control, or someone who believes you. A person can survive war with strong support and fall apart from a single betrayal without it. The nervous system doesn't measure stress in absolute terms. It measures the distance between what you're facing and what you have to face it with. That gap, that's where too much lives. Your brain has a threat detection system that works much faster than conscious thought. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, scans your environment continuously. According to neuroscience research from MIT in 2024, the amygdala can begin processing threat-related information in less than 20 milliseconds, while conscious thought typically requires several hundred milliseconds to form. This means your body can react to danger before you're even aware of feeling afraid. When you've been through too much, this system becomes hypersensitive, like a smoke detector that's been turned up too high. It starts detecting threats that aren't there, not because you're broken, but because it's trying desperately to keep you safe. Chronic stress physically changes the architecture of your brain. A 2025 study from Harvard Medical School using advanced brain imaging found that prolonged exposure to stress hormones, particularly cortisol, can actually shrink the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory and emotional regulation. This shrinkage isn't permanent, but while it's happening, it becomes harder to distinguish past threats from present safety. Your brain loses some of its ability to contextualize, to say that was then, this is now. This is why people who've been through too much sometimes feel like they're still in danger even when they're objectively safe. It's not imagination, it's neurobiology. Your brain is working with altered architecture, trying to build safety with slightly different tools than it had before. There's a concept in psychology called allostatic load, the cumulative wear and tear on your body from chronic stress. Think of it like this: your stress response system is designed for short bursts, like running from a predator. Your heart rate spikes, cortisol floods your system, non-essential functions shut down. Then, when you're safe, everything returns to baseline. But when stress becomes chronic, when you never fully return to baseline, your body starts paying a price. According to research from UCSF, published in late 2024, high allostatic load is linked to everything from cardiovascular disease to accelerated aging at the cellular level. You didn't just feel the weight. Your body absorbed it, cell by cell, heartbeat by heartbeat. Your nervous system has three basic states. According to polyvagal theory developed by Dr. Stephen Porges and expanded in recent research through 2025. First, there's the social engagement system, when you feel safe, connected, able to rest and digest. Second, there's the sympathetic activation, fight or flight, adrenaline pumping, ready to act. Third, there's the dorsal vagal shutdown, freeze, collapse, dissociation, when threat feels inescapable. When you've been through too much, your nervous system can get stuck cycling between these last two states. You're either hyper-aroused, constantly on guard, or you're numbed out, feeling nothing at all. The peaceful middle state, where connection and safety live, becomes harder and harder to access. Not because you don't want it, because your biology won't let you stay there. Childhood adversity has a disproportionate impact on adult stress tolerance. Not because childhood is inherently more important, but because that's when your stress response system is calibrating itself. Research from the CDC's Adverse Childhood Experiences study, with updated data through 2025, shows that experiencing 4 or more adverse events in childhood significantly increases vulnerability to stress-related conditions in adulthood, with risk levels ranging from 2 to 4 times higher, depending on the specific condition. Here's why your developing brain is essentially asking, what kind of world am I being born into, dangerous or safe? And it builds its threat detection system accordingly. If the answer is dangerous, it builds a more sensitive alarm system. That sensitivity, once helpful for survival, becomes a burden when you're finally in a safer environment. The alarm keeps ringing when there's no longer a fire. Emotional neglect can be just as damaging as active abuse, though it's often invisible. A 2024 study in the journal Developmental Psychology found that children who experienced emotional neglect, the absence of attunement, validation, and emotional support, showed similar patterns of nervous system dysregulation as children who experienced overt trauma. The absence of something you needed can shape you as powerfully as the presence of something harmful. You might not have a specific event to point to, no single moment when everything fell apart. Instead, there was a steady, quiet deprivation, the message that your feelings didn't matter, that you were too much or not enough, that you should handle everything alone. And your nervous system absorbed that message as truth. Your body stores memories that your mind can't consciously access. This is called implicit or somatic memory, and it's held not in the narrative processing centers of your brain, but in your body's tissues, nervous system, and muscular patterns. According to research in somatic psychology from 2025, traumatic experiences can be encoded in the body as tension patterns, chronic pain, or automatic defensive postures, all without any conscious memory of the original event. This is why sometimes a certain smell, a tone of voice, or a physical sensation can trigger intense anxiety without you knowing why. Your body remembers what your mind has forgotten. It's trying to protect you from something it thinks might happen again, even if you can't remember when it happened before. Hypervigilance isn't paranoia. It's an intelligent adaptation to environments where threat was real and unpredictable. When you grow up or live in situations where danger could appear at any moment, your brain learns to scan constantly, to monitor facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, mood shifts. You become an expert at reading rooms, predicting danger, staying one step ahead. According to clinical psychology research from 2024, this hypervigilance often continues long after the dangerous environment ends. You keep scanning even when there's nothing to find, not because you're damaged, but because your brain became exceptionally good at a skill it needed to survive. The problem is, you can't easily turn off a skill that once saved your life. There's a window of tolerance, a zone where your nervous system can handle stress, process emotions, and stay relatively regulated. Imagine it as a comfortable range of activation, not too numb, not too overwhelmed. When you've been through too much, this window shrinks. Things that wouldn't bother most people can push you outside your tolerance quickly. A minor criticism feels devastating. A small disappointment triggers collapse. Not because you're overreacting, but because your window has become narrower. Dr. Dan Siegel's research on affect regulation, updated through 2025, shows that chronic stress literally reduces the range of stimulation you can tolerate before dysregulating. So yes, you feel things more intensely. Your system has been recalibrated by experience. And that's not weakness. That's evidence of what you've survived. Dissociation is a survival mechanism, not a sign of weakness or mental instability. When threat is inescapable and overwhelming, the mind sometimes chooses to leave, to separate consciousness from experience. According to the International Society for Traumatic Stress Studies, a significant portion of people, estimates range from 30 to 75%, depending on the type and severity of trauma, experience some form of dissociation during or after overwhelming events. It can feel like watching yourself from outside your body, like moving through fog, like emotions are happening to someone else. This is your brain's protective response, a way of creating distance when staying present feels overwhelming. The challenge is when this response continues activating in safe situations, making it hard to feel present even when you want to be. Trust becomes complicated when you've been hurt by people who were supposed to keep you safe. Research in attachment psychology, published in early 2025, shows that betrayal by a caregiver, partner, or trusted person creates what's called betrayal trauma, a specific form of psychological injury that damages your blueprint for relationships. Your brain essentially faces an impossible equation. The person who hurt you is also the person you need for survival or connection. This creates a profound internal conflict that can last years. You want to trust. You want connection. But part of you is screaming danger signals whenever you get close to anyone. This isn't you being difficult or damaged. This is your attachment system trying to solve an unsolvable problem without to need people who proved themselves unsafe. Shame is different from guilt, and understanding this difference matters. Guilt says, "I did something bad." Shame says, "I am bad." According to researcher Brené Brown's work, expanded through multiple studies through 2025, shame is one of the most toxic emotional experiences because it attacks your sense of fundamental worthiness. When you've been through too much, especially if you were blamed for what happened to you or told you somehow caused it, shame can burrow deep into your identity. It becomes a lens through which you see everything about yourself. You don't just feel bad about what happened. You feel bad about who you are. This internal conviction of unworthiness can persist long after external circumstances change, whispering that you deserved the pain, that you're fundamentally flawed. And that whisper is a lie. Your brain has something called negativity bias, a tendency to notice, remember, and give more weight to negative experiences than positive ones. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. The ancestor who remembered where the predator attacked survived. The one who only remembered pleasant meadows didn't. But according to neuroscience research from Stanford in 2024, this bias intensifies dramatically after repeated stress or trauma. Your brain essentially turns up the volume on threat detection and turns down the volume on safety cues. Positive experiences, moments of joy or connection, don't register as strongly. They slide past, while negative ones stick like burrs. This is why recovery can feel so hard. You're not imagining that good things don't count as much. Your brain is literally processing them more quietly. Complex PTSD is different from the PTSD most people picture. While standard PTSD typically results from a single traumatic event or series of similar events, complex PTSD develops from prolonged, repeated trauma, especially in contexts where escape is difficult or impossible. The World Health Organization officially recognized CPTSD as a distinct diagnosis in 2019, and research through 2025 continues to refine our understanding. In addition to typical PTSD symptoms, CPTSD includes profound difficulties with emotional regulation, negative self-concept, and interpersonal relationships. It's not just about remembering a traumatic event. It's about having your entire developmental trajectory shaped by chronic threat. Your personality, your sense of self, your understanding of how the world works, all formed in the presence of ongoing stress. This changes everything about how you move through the world. Emotional flashbacks are different from the visual flashbacks often depicted in movies. An emotional flashback is when you suddenly feel the way you felt during a past traumatic time. Intense fear, helplessness, shame, or rage, without necessarily having any visual memory or conscious awareness of what triggered it. According to Pete Walker's research on complex trauma, these flashbacks can be triggered by anything that resembles the emotional tone of the original experience. A certain kind of conflict, a feeling of being trapped, a tone of voice. Suddenly you're feeling 13 years old again, or 23, or whatever age you were when you learned that the world wasn't safe. Your body is reacting to the past as if it's happening now, and you might not even realize that's what's occurring. People-pleasing isn't weakness or lack of boundaries. It's often a trauma response. When you grew up or lived in environments where other people's emotions were unpredictable or dangerous, You learn to manage their feelings to keep yourself safe. This is called fawning, the fourth survival response beyond fight, flight, and freeze. Research in trauma psychology from 2024 shows that fawning develops when direct confrontation, fight, and escape, flight, aren't viable options. So you become excellent at reading what others need, accommodating, making yourself small, keeping the peace. You sacrifice your own needs and boundaries not because you're weak, but because at some point in your life, this was how you survived. Your nervous system learned, if I can keep them happy, I stay safe. And that pattern persists even when the original threat is long gone. Chronic pain and stress are deeply interconnected. Studies from the National Institutes of Health through 2025 show that prolonged psychological stress can literally create or amplify physical pain through processes called central sensitization, where your nervous system becomes more sensitive to pain signals. The connection runs both directions. Stress causes pain, and pain causes stress, creating a feedback loop. Your muscles hold tension in patterns that reflect emotional states. Your fascia, the connective tissue throughout your body, can develop restrictions based on protective responses. This isn't all in your head. This is your body speaking the language of experience, holding memories of threat in fiber and nerve. The pain is real. The exhaustion is real. Your body has been carrying the weight right alongside your mind. Sleep becomes difficult when your nervous system won't let you rest. The same hypervigilance that keeps you safe during the day makes sleep feel dangerous. A state of vulnerability your nervous system resists entering. According to sleep research from the Sleep Foundation's 2025 data, people with high stress or trauma history often experience chronic insomnia, not because they're not tired, but because their bodies won't release into the defenselessness that deep sleep requires. Your brain keeps checking. Is it safe? Is it safe yet? And even when the answer is yes, part of you doesn't believe it. So you lie awake, exhausted but wired, wanting desperately to rest, but unable to give your body permission to let go of vigilance. Grief can come from what didn't happen as much as from what did. When you've been through too much, part of what you're mourning is the life you should have had, the childhood that should have been safe, the relationships that should have been nurturing, the version of yourself who didn't have to become so defended. Therapists call this ambiguous loss. Loss that has no clear marker, no funeral, no social recognition. According to research in grief psychology from 2024, this type of loss can be particularly difficult to process because there's nothing concrete to point to. You're grieving an absence, a gap, a should have been, and the world doesn't always recognize that this grief is real, is valid, deserves space to be felt and honored. Your inner critic is often an internalized voice from your past. According to schema therapy research updated through 2025, the harsh, critical voice many trauma survivors hear isn't actually their own authentic self speaking. It's an internalized representation of someone who was critical, dismissive, or abusive. A parent, a partner, a bullying peer, your young mind, trying to make sense of mistreatment, concluded that there must be something wrong with you to deserve it. So you internalized that judgment. And now you do to yourself what was once done to you. The critical voice feels like truth, feels like it's protecting you from future hurt, by pointing out your flaws first. But it's actually just perpetuating old patterns, keeping you small and scared. Recovery isn't linear. On a Tuesday, you might feel like you've made real progress. You handled a trigger well. You set a boundary. You felt present in your body. Then Wednesday arrives, and you're back to square one, overwhelmed by something small, struggling with the same old patterns. This isn't failure. According to the latest understanding of neuroplasticity research from 2025, healing happens in spirals, not straight lines. You revisit old wounds at deeper levels, process new layers of the same experiences, integrate understanding in waves. Each time you circle back, you're actually seeing it from a slightly different angle, with slightly more resources. The fact that you notice you're struggling again is actually evidence of growing awareness. You're not going backward, you're going deeper. Anger is often a secondary emotion covering deeper pain or fear. When you feel angry, especially disproportionately angry about small things, there's usually something more vulnerable underneath. Grief, helplessness, fear of abandonment, shame. Research in emotion regulation from 2024 shows that anger can serve as a protective shield, keeping those more vulnerable feelings at bay. Anger says, "I'm powerful. I'm in control." When underneath, you might be feeling powerless or frightened. For people who've been through too much, anger can also be a sign that you're finally allowing yourself to feel the injustice of what happened, to push back against the things you once had to accept. That anger is valuable information. It's telling you that somewhere deep down, you know you deserved better. Comparison is particularly painful when you're healing from difficult experiences. You see others who seem to have it together, who didn't go through what you did or who went through worse and seem fine. And you wonder why you're still struggling. According to positive psychology research from 2025, this comparison often leaves out invisible factors: the support systems others had, their innate temperament, the specific timing and context of their experiences, the private struggles they're not showing you. You're comparing your inside to their outside, your messy healing process to their curated presentation, and you're forgetting that your path is uniquely yours. The question isn't why you're not further along than someone else. The question is, are you further along than you were? And the answer, if you're here listening, is yes. So why do people go through too much? Not because they're weak, not because they deserved it, not because they couldn't handle normal stress. People experience too much when the weight of their experiences exceeds the support systems available to process them. When trauma accumulates without repair, when stress persists without relief, when they're forced to carry burdens alone that were meant to be shared. Research across psychology and neuroscience from 2025 confirms what lived experience already knows. Human beings aren't designed to suffer in isolation. We're wired for co-regulation, for shared processing, for the presence of others who witness our pain and help us carry it. When that support is absent, even moderate stress becomes too much, not because you're insufficient, because humans aren't meant to heal alone, and you've been trying to do something that requires help. That's what made it too much. Let's pause here and notice your body. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel where you're holding tension, maybe in your jaw, your shoulders, your belly. Notice it without trying to change it yet. Your body has been working so hard to protect you, holding tight, staying ready. never fully resting. All this time, it's been trying to keep you safe. What if, just for this moment, you could thank your body for trying so hard and gently, so gently, give it permission to soften, just a little. You don't have to let go of all the protection. Just notice it. Just acknowledge how exhausting it's been. Breathe into the tight places, not to fix them, just to say, I see you. I know you're tired. And now we continue into deeper understanding. Your response to stress is shaped by factors you couldn't control. Genetics account for approximately 30 to 40% of your stress resilience. According to research in behavioral genetics from 2024, some people are born with nervous systems that are naturally more sensitive, more reactive to stimuli. This isn't weakness. In safe environments, these sensitive nervous systems often enable deep empathy, creativity, and awareness. But in threatening environments, they mean you feel everything more intensely. Add to this the early environmental factors: attachment security, caregiver attunement, childhood stability, and you have a stress response system that's essentially being built by forces beyond your choosing. You didn't decide to be more sensitive to stress. You were born and shaped that way. Blame has no place here. The American Academy of Pediatrics identified what they term toxic stress. This occurs when a child experiences strong, frequent, or prolonged activation of their stress response without adequate adult support to help them cope. This isn't about normal, manageable stress. It's about chronic activation of the body's alarm systems during critical developmental periods. The effects are measurable changes in brain architecture, increased inflammation markers, epigenetic changes that can even affect gene expression. Children who experience toxic stress are essentially growing up with their nervous systems stuck in emergency mode, which shapes everything about how they process the world. If that was you, understand your brain was building itself in the presence of threat. That changed the blueprint. Attachment styles formed in childhood predict how you handle stress and seek support in adulthood. According to attachment theory, refined through decades of research up to 2025, children develop patterns based on their early caregiving experiences: secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized. These patterns become templates for all future relationships. If you struggle to reach out when you're hurting, or if you panic when people get close, it's not a character flaw. It's an adaptation to early experiences that taught you connection came with conditions, inconsistency, or even danger. The way you relate to others now reflects what you learned about relationships when you were most vulnerable and had no choice but to adapt. The body's stress response system, the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, can become dysregulated from chronic activation. Think of it like a thermostat that's been adjusted so many times it no longer knows what normal temperature should be. According to endocrinology research from 2025, chronic stress can result in either persistent elevation of cortisol, leading to anxiety and hypervigilance, or eventual depletion and blunting of cortisol response, leading to fatigue and emotional numbness. Some people get stuck in overdrive. Others get stuck in shutdown. Both are attempts at adaptation that have become maladaptive. Your body is trying to find equilibrium in a system that's been thrown off balance by prolonged threat. It's not failing you. It's working with compromised hardware. doing its best to keep functioning. Intergenerational trauma is real and scientifically documented. Research in epigenetics, the study of how experiences can affect gene expression, has shown that trauma can leave molecular markers on DNA that get passed to offspring. Studies from Mount Sinai School of Medicine and others through 2024 found that children of Holocaust survivors, 9/11 survivors, and other trauma-exposed populations showed altered stress hormone profiles, even without direct exposure to those events. This doesn't mean you're doomed by your ancestors' pain. It means you might have inherited a more sensitive stress response system, a nervous system calibrated for threat that your ancestors faced. You're not just carrying your own experiences. You might be carrying echoes of pain that precedes you. And that's not your fault. That's biology and history intersecting in your body. Social support is one of the most powerful predictors of stress resilience. According to research compiled by the American Psychological Association through 2025, people with strong social connections recover faster from adversity, show better physical health outcomes, and have more robust stress response systems. Yet building this support requires skills. How to ask for help, how to receive it, how to discern who's safe. Skills that trauma often disrupts. Learning to connect again isn't about forcing yourself to trust everyone. It's about slowly, carefully learning to trust your own judgment about who deserves your vulnerability. The very thing you need most becomes the thing you must learn to do differently, more carefully, with awareness of both risk and possibility. The window of tolerance can widen again with consistent safety and practice. This is the hopeful news from nervous system research in 2025. The narrowing that occurred from chronic stress isn't permanent. Through practices like therapy, somatic experiencing, mindfulness, and regulated relationships, you can gradually increase your capacity to handle stress without dysregulating. It happens slowly. The window widens millimeter by millimeter. You might not notice day to day, but over months and years, you find you can handle things that once would have undone you. A conflict doesn't destroy you. A disappointment doesn't trigger collapse. Not because the pain isn't real, but because your system has learned, slowly, painstakingly, that you can feel difficult things without falling apart completely. You're building capacity, breath by breath, moment by moment. Learned helplessness is a psychological phenomenon discovered by Martin Seligman and refined through research up to 2024. When animals or humans are repeatedly exposed to unavoidable stress or pain, they eventually stop trying to escape, even when escape becomes possible. They've learned that their actions don't matter, that they're helpless to change their circumstances. This can manifest as depression, passivity, or a profound sense of defeat. If you've ever felt stuck in situations that look escapable from the outside, if you've struggled to take action even when you want to change, learned helplessness might be part of what you're experiencing. Not laziness, not weakness, a learned belief, carved deep by experience, that trying doesn't help. That belief is strong, but it isn't truth, and it can be unlearned, though it takes time. Self-compassion is scientifically proven to aid in trauma recovery. According to research by Kristin Neff and others through 2025, self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a good friend who's suffering. It involves three components: self-kindness instead of harsh judgment, common humanity instead of isolation, and mindfulness instead of over-identification with painful thoughts. Studies show that trauma survivors who develop self-compassion show better recovery outcomes than those who rely on self-esteem alone. Here's why self-esteem is contingent on success and external validation. Self-compassion is available even when you're struggling, even when you've failed, even when you feel like you're falling apart. It says, "This is hard, and you're doing your best. Not you should be better than this." That difference is everything when you're healing from experiences that taught you that you're not enough. Emotional regulation. The ability to manage the intensity and duration of emotions is often the core skill that trauma disrupts. According to research in developmental psychology from 2024, children learn to regulate emotions through co-regulation with caregivers. A parent helps a child calm down, name their feelings, and process experiences. Over time, the child internalizes this process and can do it alone. But if caregivers were inconsistent, absent, or themselves dysregulated, you might have never fully developed this capacity. So, emotions feel overwhelming because you genuinely don't have the full toolkit to modulate them. They hit full force, without the buffering that internal regulation provides. This isn't a personal failing. It's a developmental gap created by circumstances beyond your control. And it's a gap that can still be filled. The concept of a trauma timeline helps make sense of delayed reactions. Sometimes people function well during crisis, holding everything together with impressive strength. Then, when things finally stabilize, when the danger passes, they fall apart. This confuses people. Why now? When things are finally okay, according to trauma psychology research from 2025, this happens because during active threat, your system mobilizes all resources for survival. Only when safety arrives does your nervous system have bandwidth to begin processing what happened. The falling apart isn't weakness or bad timing. It's your system finally feeling safe enough to acknowledge the pain it had to suppress. The breakdown is actually a sign that some part of you recognizes you're safe now. Safe enough to start feeling everything you had to set aside to survive. Trauma changes your relationship with time. The past doesn't stay past. It intrudes into the present through flashbacks, triggers, and emotional flooding. According to neuropsychology research from 2024, this happens because traumatic memories are often stored differently than normal memories. They're fragmented, unintegrated, lacking the temporal context that would mark them as then instead of now. So when something triggers a traumatic memory, it doesn't feel like remembering. It feels like re-experiencing. Your body reacts as if the threat is present. Your emotions surge as if it's happening right now. Not because you're stuck in the past by choice, but because the past hasn't been properly moved into the completed category in your brain's filing system. It's still active, still unfinished, still demanding your attention and defensive response. Perfectionism often develops as a trauma response. If you grew up in chaotic or critical environments, you might have learned that being perfect, or at least appearing perfect, kept you safer. Maybe it reduced criticism, earned approval, or gave you a sense of control in an unpredictable world. Research in personality psychology from 2025 distinguishes between healthy striving and maladaptive perfectionism. Maladaptive perfectionism is driven by fear of failure, shame, and the belief that your worth depends on flawless performance. It's exhausting. unsustainable, and paradoxically makes you less effective because the fear of imperfection creates paralysis. If you struggle with perfectionism, it's not about high standards. It's about the terror underneath. The learned belief that anything less than perfect isn't safe. That mistakes mean you're unworthy. And that belief, though it once protected you, is now holding you hostage. Identity formation becomes complicated when you've been through too much. Adolescence and young adulthood are supposed to be when you explore who you are, try on different identities, and consolidate a sense of self. But if those years were consumed by survival, by managing unstable environments or relationships, that exploration doesn't happen. According to developmental research from 2024, many trauma survivors reach adulthood without a clear sense of identity. Who are you when you're not in crisis? What do you want when you're not just trying to survive? These aren't simple questions when your formative years were spent adapting to threat rather than discovering authentic desires. You might feel like you don't know yourself. That's because the space where self-discovery happens was occupied by survival. And now, perhaps for the first time, you have the safety to ask, who am I really? We reach the middle of our journey. And it's worth pausing to acknowledge what we've explored. You've learned why too much isn't about your capacity, but about the gap between stress and support. You've seen how chronic stress reshapes the brain, how early experiences calibrate your nervous system, how survival responses, once adaptive, become burdens when threat passes. This isn't abstract theory. This is your life. Your experiences mapped onto neuroscience and psychology. And here's what research confirms: going through too much changes you at biological and psychological levels. The weight you carry isn't self-created drama. It's the accumulated impact of experiences that exceeded your resources. That validation matters. You're not making this up. You're still here with me. Thoughts still flickering like candlelight. Just notice. Don't judge. Just notice where your mind is. We're exploring the psychology of what it means to carry too much. The very thing that makes it hard to rest is what we're understanding together. Strange, beautiful, and perfectly calm. Let's drift onward together. But here's where the story shifts. Everything we've discussed so far explains why people go through too much and how it changes them. Now we turn toward the question of healing. Because while trauma rewires the brain can also rewire itself. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections and reorganize itself, doesn't stop just because you've been hurt. According to neuroscience research from 2025, the same malleability that allowed stress to change your brain also allows healing to change it back. Or rather, forward into something new. You're not trying to become who you were before. You're becoming someone who carries the wisdom of survival while reclaiming the capacity for peace. That transformation is possible. Not easy, not quick, but genuinely, scientifically possible. Therapy works by creating new neural pathways. When you talk about difficult experiences in the presence of a safe, attuned person, your brain begins to reconsolidate the memories, to update them with new information, particularly the information of safety and support. Research in psychotherapy from 2024 shows that effective therapy doesn't erase traumatic memories, but it changes your relationship to them. The memories become less triggering, less overwhelming. They start to feel like something that happened rather than something that's happening. This process requires what therapists call a corrective emotional experience, experiencing something different than what you learned to expect. If you learned relationships are dangerous, experiencing a consistently safe relationship rewires that expectation, synapse by synapse. It takes time, but it's happening. Each session, each moment of safety that contradicts the old patterns. IMDA, eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing, is one therapeutic approach with strong research support for trauma processing, recognized by the WHO and American Psychological Association, with studies through 2025 showing effectiveness. EMDR uses bilateral stimulation, often eye movements, to help the brain reprocess traumatic memories. The exact mechanism isn't fully understood, but it appears to facilitate the brain's natural healing process, helping stuck memories become unstuck. During EMDR, traumatic memories can become less vivid, less emotionally charged. The facts remain the same. What happened still happened, but the experience of remembering changes. It's like the memory gets properly filed away as past, instead of staying perpetually present. For many people, this approach offers relief when talking alone hasn't been enough. Different brains need different pathways to healing. Somatic therapy works directly with the body's trauma imprints. Since trauma is stored not just cognitively but in muscular patterns, breathing, and nervous system activation. Approaches like somatic experiencing help release that stored energy. Developed by Peter Levine and refined through research to 2025, somatic therapy helps complete the defensive responses that were interrupted during trauma, the fight or flight that couldn't happen. Through careful attention to body sensations, you might notice tension, shaking, heat, or other sensations as your nervous system releases stored defensive energy. This isn't about forcing anything. It's about creating space for your body to complete the survival responses it started years ago. Your body has been holding the story of what happened. Somatic work helps it tell that story and finally let it move through and out. Mindfulness and meditation have measurable effects on the stress response system. Research, using brain imaging and biological markers through 2025, shows that consistent mindfulness practice can reduce amygdala reactivity, increase prefrontal cortex activity related to emotional regulation, and even change cortisol patterns. But here's the important nuance for trauma survivors. Traditional meditation can sometimes be overwhelming or triggering. Being alone with your thoughts without distraction can bring up difficult material you're not ready to face. That's why trauma-informed mindfulness, which emphasizes grounding, choice, and titration of intense experiences, is essential. The goal isn't to force yourself to sit with unbearable feelings. It's to gradually, safely expand your capacity to be present with your experience without being overwhelmed by it. Start small. Start gentle. Post-traumatic growth is a scientifically documented phenomenon, distinct from resilience. Resilience is bouncing back to your previous level of functioning. Post-traumatic growth, according to research by psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, updated through 2024, is actually changing in ways that go beyond recovery. Developing deeper relationships, greater appreciation for life, personal strength, new possibilities, and spiritual development. Not everyone experiences this, and it's not required for healing. But studies suggest anywhere from 30 to 70% of trauma survivors depending on how growth is measured, report some form of growth. This doesn't mean that trauma was good or necessary. It means humans have a remarkable capacity to forge meaning from suffering, to alchemize pain into wisdom. You can acknowledge that what happened was terrible and acknowledge that you've become deeper, stronger, more compassionate. Both truths can coexist. Connection is the antidote to trauma. While trauma happens in isolation, even if you're physically with others, the experience itself is isolating. Healing happens in connection. According to interpersonal neurobiology research from 2025, our nervous systems are designed to regulate through relationship. When you're with someone who's calm and present, their regulated nervous system can help regulate yours. This is called co-regulation. Babies do this with caregivers naturally. Adults can do it too, though trauma makes it harder to trust enough to allow it. This is why healing communities, group therapy, and trusted relationships matter so much. You don't just heal by thinking different thoughts or processing memories. You heal by experiencing, over and over. That connection is possible, that you can be seen in your struggle and not rejected. That relational experience rewrites isolation. Medication can be a valuable tool, though it's not the whole answer. Psychiatric medications, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, mood stabilizers can help regulate the neurochemical imbalances that severe stress creates. According to psychiatric research from 2024, medication is most effective when combined with therapy, not as a replacement for it. Medication can provide a floor, a baseline level of stability that makes therapy possible when you're too dysregulated to engage in it. For some people, medication is temporary support during acute crisis. For others, it's long-term management of chronic conditions. There's no shame in needing chemical support for chemical imbalances. Your brain is an organ. Sometimes organs need medicine. That doesn't mean you're weak or failing at recovery. It means you're using all available tools to heal. Small practices matter more than grand gestures. According to research in behavioral psychology and habit formation from 2025, sustainable healing comes from consistent, small actions rather than occasional, intense interventions. 5 minutes of daily breathing exercises can be more effective than an annual retreat. Regular short therapy sessions work better than occasional marathon sessions. The brain changes through repetition, through new patterns practiced consistently. When you're exhausted from carrying too much, the idea of adding more to your plate feels impossible. So don't. Instead, find tiny moments. 1 minute of deep breathing when you wake. One kind thought instead of one critical thought. One time saying no instead of always saying yes. These aren't trivial. They're the bricks that rebuild your nervous system. One small choice at a time. Healing isn't heroic. It's patient. Halfway through our journey, we've moved from understanding why people go through too much to exploring how healing becomes possible. We've seen that the same brain plasticity that allowed trauma to reshape you also allows recovery to reshape you again. We've learned that healing isn't just cognitive. It requires working with the body, with relationships, with the nervous system itself. Research across neuroscience, psychology, and trauma studies through 2025 points to the same truth. You are not permanently broken. The changes that stress created aren't fixed. They're patterns. And patterns can shift. The story that brought you here doesn't have to define you forever. You're already writing a new chapter. Right now. By being here. By learning. By daring to hope that change is possible. And it is. Let's pause here and notice where you are in time. Take a deep breath. Whatever happened that was too much. It happened then. You're here now. Your body might not know the difference yet. Your nervous system might still be responding as if threat is present. That's okay. That's what it learned. But this moment, this breath, this second, is new. It's never existed before. And in this moment, right now, you're safe. You don't have to stay here. You don't have to believe it fully. Just notice right now, in this particular moment, you're okay. The past shaped you, but it doesn't own you. Not anymore. Not if you don't let it. Take one more deep breath, and we'll continue, gently, into the terrain of deeper healing. Healing isn't about returning to who you were before. That person, the one who existed before the weight became too much, doesn't exist anymore. And that's actually okay. According to research in trauma recovery from 2024, the goal isn't restoration, but integration. Becoming someone who has been through difficulty and emerged transformed, not erased. You're not trying to forget what happened or pretend it didn't change you. You're learning to carry the experience without it crushing you, to remember without reliving, to honor what you survived while still moving forward into new possibilities. You're becoming someone who holds both the wound and the wisdom, someone who knows pain and still chooses, when you can, connection and hope. Your healing doesn't have to look like anyone else's. There's no correct timeline, no right way to recover. Some people heal through talk therapy, others through movement, art, or spending time in nature. Some need medication, others need spiritual practice. Some people want to talk about their trauma extensively. Others heal by focusing on the present and future. According to research on individualized treatment approaches from 2025, what matters most isn't the specific modality, but the match between the approach and your particular needs, nervous system, and circumstances. Trust your own process. If something isn't working, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means you need a different approach. Your path to healing is valid, even if it looks different from what helped someone else. Triggers will likely always exist to some degree, but your relationship with them can change. A trigger is any sensory experience that reminds your nervous system of past threat. A smell, a sound, a tone of voice, a feeling in your body. According to trauma research from 2024, healing doesn't eliminate triggers, but reduces their intensity and your reaction time. Where a trigger might once have sent you into complete dysregulation for hours or days, eventually it might create just a moment of activation that you can notice, name, and move through. You develop what's called trigger literacy, the ability to recognize what's happening and remind yourself this is a memory response, not a present threat. Grief and healing often happen simultaneously. You might have days where you feel genuinely better, lighter, more hopeful. Then grief hits. Grief for time lost, for innocence that can't be recovered, for the version of yourself that might have been. This isn't regression. According to contemporary grief research from 2025, this is the natural rhythm of processing loss. You can't heal without grieving. And you can't grieve without sometimes feeling better and then remembering what you've lost. Let both happen. Let yourself feel hope without abandoning sorrow. Let yourself grieve without giving up on joy. Healing doesn't mean choosing one over the other. It means having capacity for both, holding them together in your hands without one cancelling the other. Self-care isn't selfish, though trauma survivors often struggle with this truth. When you've been taught, explicitly or implicitly, that others' needs matter more than yours, taking time for yourself can feel wrong. But research in psychological well-being from 2024 shows clearly you cannot pour from an empty cup. Rest isn't laziness. Boundaries aren't cruelty. Saying no isn't abandonment. These are necessities for sustained functioning. Your nervous system needs downtime to reset, just like your body needs sleep. If you keep pushing through exhaustion, keep giving when you have nothing left, you're not being strong. You're heading toward collapse. Taking care of yourself isn't indulgence. It's the maintenance that makes everything else possible. The body's healing timeline often differs from the mind's understanding. You might intellectually grasp what happened and why you react the way you do. You might have processed memories, gained insight, done the cognitive work, yet your body might still startle easily, still hold tension, still respond with old patterns. According to somatic psychology research from 2025, the nervous system has its own pace of integration. Physical responses need repeated experiences of safety before updating their threat assessment. This can feel frustrating. Why does my body still react this way when I know better? Because knowing and embodying are different processes. Be patient with your body. It's doing its best to protect you with outdated information. It will catch up. Community and belonging are powerful healing forces. Humans are tribal creatures. We're wired for group membership. According to social psychology research from 2024, people who find communities where they feel understood and accepted show significantly better recovery outcomes. This might be a therapy group, an online community, a spiritual congregation, a hobby group, any place where you can show up authentically and be received without judgment. The specific content of the community matters less than the quality of connection. What heals is the experience of being seen in your full humanity, struggles included, and not being rejected, of discovering you're not uniquely broken, uniquely difficult, uniquely too much. You're human, and you belong. Forgiveness is complex and not always necessary for healing. Despite what some philosophies suggest, you don't have to forgive to move forward. According to research on forgiveness and well-being from 2025, what matters more than forgiveness is reaching a place where the past no longer controls your present. Some people find forgiveness healing, releasing anger, choosing peace. Others find power in saying what happened was wrong, and I don't have to forgive it to stop letting it define me. Both paths are valid. The goal isn't forgiveness or unforgiveness. It's freedom from the prison of ongoing resentment. Whether you get there through forgiveness or through some other door doesn't matter. What matters is arriving at your own peace. Boundary setting is a skill you can learn, even if it feels impossible now, for people who've been through too much, especially if your boundaries were violated repeatedly. Setting limits can feel terrifying. You might fear rejection, conflict, or abandonment. According to clinical psychology research from 2024, Learning to set boundaries is like learning any skill. Awkward at first, requiring practice, getting easier over time. Start small. Start with low-stakes situations. Notice how it feels to say no to something minor. Your nervous system needs evidence that boundaries don't lead to catastrophe. Each time you set a boundary and survive, you're rewriting the old script that said your needs don't matter, that speaking up is dangerous, that you have to accept everything to be loved. Sleep hygiene becomes crucial when your nervous system is dysregulated. Creating consistent bedtime routines, keeping your bedroom cool and dark, limiting screen time before bed. These aren't trivial suggestions. According to sleep research from 2025, these practices directly support nervous system regulation. When you've been through too much, your sleep-wake cycle is often disrupted. Creating external structure helps your body remember the rhythm of rest. Dim the lights an hour before bed. Keep the same sleep schedule. Create a ritual that signals to your nervous system we're transitioning to safety, to rest, to letting go of vigilance. Your body will learn to trust these signals. Slowly, with repetition, sleep becomes easier. Not perfect, but possible. Creativity can be a powerful healing modality. Art, music, writing, dance. These aren't frivolous activities, but ways of processing experience that bypass verbal language. According to expressive therapy research from 2024, creative practices access different neural pathways than talk therapy. They let you express and process things you might not have words for. The quality of what you create doesn't matter. You're not making art for others to judge. You're externalizing internal experiences, giving form to formless pain or confusion, drawing your anxiety, dancing your anger, writing the story only you know. These acts of creation are acts of integration, taking what's inside and making it visible, tangible, and therefore somehow more manageable. Nature exposure has documented benefits for trauma recovery. Studies from environmental psychology through 2025 show that time in natural settings reduces cortisol levels, lowers blood pressure, and improves mood. There's something about the non-human world that offers respite from the social complexity that often characterizes trauma. Trees don't judge. Water doesn't demand anything. The sky witnesses without needing you to explain. If you can, spend time outside. Even looking at nature through a window helps. Even bringing plants into your space. Nature offers a kind of steady, indifferent presence. It was here before your pain. Will be here after. That perspective, that reminder of continuity beyond your suffering, can be oddly comforting. Laughter is healing, and you're allowed to experience joy even while you're hurting. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending pain doesn't exist. Research in positive psychology from 2024 shows that moments of joy, humor, and lightness during difficult times aren't betrayals of your pain. They're breathers. They're your nervous system's way of resetting, of not staying in constant distress. You can be deeply affected by what you've been through and still laugh at a joke. You can be healing from trauma and still enjoy a beautiful sunset. These moments of lightness don't erase your struggle. They make it bearable. They remind you there's more to life than pain. And that reminder is crucial for sustained healing. Medication adjustments sometimes take trial and error. If you're working with psychiatric medication, Know that finding the right medication and dosage often takes time. According to pharmacology research from 2025, individual responses to psychiatric medications vary significantly based on genetics, metabolism, and other factors. What works for one person might not work for you. Side effects might be intolerable. Dosages might need adjustment. This isn't failure. This is the reality of treating complex neurochemical systems. Work with a psychiatrist who listens, who's willing to adjust, who treats you as a partner in finding what works. And remember, the goal is supporting your healing, not creating a different set of problems. Speak up if something isn't working. Relationship patterns that developed as survival strategies can be changed. The ways you relate to others. Maybe you become overly dependent or excessively independent. Maybe you idealize people then devalue them. Maybe you test people's loyalty constantly. These patterns made sense once. According to attachment research from 2024, these patterns can shift through what's called earned secure attachment, developing security through later relationships that offer what early ones didn't. It requires repeatedly experiencing something different: consistency instead of chaos, attunement instead of neglect, safety instead of threat. Each new positive relational experience is like casting a vote for a different way of being. Eventually, those votes accumulate. The old pattern stops being your automatic default. New possibilities emerge. Slowly, with patience, with practice. Physical exercise helps regulate the nervous system, but the intensity matters. High-intensity exercise can be too activating for a dysregulated nervous system, potentially reinforcing hyperarousal. According to exercise psychology research from 2025, gentle to moderate exercise, walking, swimming, yoga, tai chi, tends to be most beneficial for trauma recovery. These activities engage your body without overwhelming it. They help complete the stress cycle, releasing pent-up energy in manageable ways. Movement reminds your body it's safe, that it's not frozen or trapped. You don't need to run marathons or do intense workouts. Just move in ways that feel good, that help you reconnect with your body as a source of sensation rather than just pain or numbness. The inner child concept can be a powerful tool for healing. When therapists talk about your inner child, they're referring to the younger version of yourself who experienced early wounds, the part that still carries those feelings of fear, abandonment, or shame. According to Inner Child Work research from 2024, visualizing and communicating with this younger self can facilitate healing. You can offer the comfort, protection, and validation that child needed but didn't receive. This isn't about blaming current you or past caregivers. It's about reparenting yourself, giving yourself now what you needed then. It can feel strange at first, but many people find profound healing in learning to comfort their own younger, frightened self with the compassion they deserved all along. Meaning-making is a crucial part of trauma integration. Humans need narrative coherence. We need our lives to make sense as a story. According to research in narrative psychology from 2025, one way people heal is by constructing a narrative that integrates their trauma into a larger story of their life, without it being the only story. You're not just a trauma survivor. You're a complex person who has been through something difficult and is now navigating recovery while also being many other things. A friend, a worker, a person with interests and dreams. Creating this broader narrative helps prevent trauma from colonizing your entire identity. You contain the experience. The experience doesn't contain all of you. Setbacks are part of recovery, not evidence of failure. You'll have bad days, bad weeks even, when old patterns resurface, when you feel like you haven't made any progress. According to longitudinal trauma recovery research from 2024, these setbacks are normal and don't erase the progress you've made. Healing isn't linear. It's not even a spiral. Sometimes it's a zigzag, a meander, a series of forward steps and backward slides. What matters is the overall direction over time, not the day-to-day fluctuations. When you have a setback, it doesn't mean you're back at square one. It means you're human. Healing is complex, and some days are harder than others. That's all. Vulnerability in relationships feels terrifying when you've been hurt, but it's also the path to genuine connection. According to research from Brené Brown and others through 2025, vulnerability, the willingness to be seen in your imperfection, to risk rejection, to show up authentically, is the birthplace of connection, love, and belonging. But when you've been through too much, vulnerability feels like handing someone a weapon and hoping they won't use it. The challenge is learning to be selectively vulnerable, choosing people who've demonstrated they're safe, starting small, noticing how they respond. Not everyone deserves your vulnerability, but closing yourself off completely means closing yourself off from the connection that could heal you. It's a delicate balance. Hope is a practice, not a feeling. When you're deep in struggle, hope can feel impossible, even offensive. How dare anyone suggest hope when you're barely surviving? But according to hope theory research from 2024, hope isn't about feeling optimistic. It's about identifying pathways forward and believing you have some agency to pursue them. It's looking at your situation and thinking, this is terrible, and I can take one small step. Hope is active. It's the opposite of passive resignation. You don't have to feel hopeful to practice hope. You just have to do the next small thing that moves you incrementally toward better. One phone call, one boundary, one moment of rest. That action, repeated, is how hope builds itself. Your story is yours to tell or not tell. Some people find healing in sharing their experiences, in testimony, in advocacy. Others heal privately, choosing not to revisit their trauma publicly. According to research on disclosure and well-being from 2025, there's no correct answer. What matters is that you have choice. You don't owe anyone your story. You don't have to educate, explain, or make others comfortable with what you've been through. Your healing journey is yours. If sharing helps you, share. If privacy serves you better, protect that. Both are valid. Both are your right. Don't let anyone pressure you into disclosure you're not ready for. Your boundary around your story is sacred and yours to set. Gratitude practices can help rebalance negativity bias, but they must be done carefully. For trauma survivors, forced gratitude can feel invalidating, like minimizing real pain. According to positive psychology research from 2024, effective gratitude practice for people who've been through difficult experiences isn't about denying pain or forcing positivity. It's about gently, deliberately noticing small moments of not terrible alongside the terrible. Not everything happens for a reason, or at least it wasn't worse. Just this moment of warmth exists. This person showed kindness. This flower is beautiful. These tiny observations don't erase suffering. They just remind your brain that suffering isn't the only reality. That balance, gradually cultivated, helps widen your capacity to notice safety and goodness when they appear. The capacity for resilience often surprises people. You might think of yourself as fragile, damaged, barely holding on. But according to resilience research from 2025, the fact that you're still here, still trying, still hoping for better, that itself is resilience. Resilience isn't about being unaffected by hardship. It's about continuing to function, continuing to try, even when functioning and trying feel impossible. You've demonstrated resilience every day you've gotten out of bed despite the wait. Every time you've reached out for help despite fear. Every moment you've chosen one more breath instead of giving up. You might not feel resilient, but by definition, by still being here navigating this difficult terrain, you are, whether you recognize it yet or not. And so we arrive at a crucial understanding. People go through too much, not because they're weak or deficient, but because circumstances exceeded their resources. The healing that follows isn't about fixing what's broken, because you were never actually broken, just adapting to impossible situations. Healing is about building new neural pathways, expanding your window of tolerance, developing skills that should have been learned earlier but can still be learned now. It's about finding connection, constructing meaning, practicing self-compassion. According to the totality of trauma and recovery research through 2025, healing is possible. Not quick, not linear, not the same for everyone, but genuinely, scientifically, demonstrably possible. You can carry what you've been through without it crushing you. You might be feeling tired now. That's perfectly fine. Take a slow, deep breath. Healing doesn't move in straight lines. It moves in cycles, like seasons. Sometimes you're in winter. Everything feels hard, frozen, dark. Then spring comes. Small signs of growth, tiny green shoots of hope pushing through hard ground. Summer brings warmth, expansion, feeling better. You think, maybe I'm actually healing. Then autumn. Things get hard again. You think you've failed, gone backward. But you haven't. You're just in a different season. Winter will come again. And spring after that. This is the rhythm. Not failure, just cycles. You're not broken. You're seasonal. And that's how humans work. Accept the cycle. Trust that spring follows winter, even when winter feels endless. And we'll continue now into the final stretch of our journey together. You've survived every difficult moment you've faced so far. Each day you didn't think you'd get through. You got through. Each moment that felt unbearable, you're still here after it. This quiet persistence is worth acknowledging. According to basic observation of your own history, your track record for getting through hard days is complete so far. That doesn't mean future challenges will be easy, but it does mean you have evidence, mountains of evidence, that you're capable of enduring. Even when it feels like you're barely holding on, you're still holding on. And that counts. Small moments of peace are valuable, even if they don't last. When you experience a few minutes of calm, of feeling okay, of not being in active struggle. That moment matters. Research from 2024 shows that these micro moments of regulation help train your nervous system toward more sustained peace. Your brain learns this is possible. We can feel this. Even if anxiety returns an hour later, that glimpse of calm isn't wasted. It's evidence. It's a data point your nervous system can reference. We know how to find this feeling. We can find it again. You don't have to heal on anyone else's timeline. Friends might wonder why you're not over it yet. Family might lose patience. Society says you should be productive, functional, moving on. According to trauma recovery experts through 2025, the timeline for healing is as unique as the trauma itself. Some people integrate difficult experiences relatively quickly. Others need years. Both are normal. Both are okay. Your healing happens at the pace your nervous system can handle. Rushing it doesn't help. Forcing it creates more pressure. Give yourself permission to take however long you need. The voice that says you're too much or not enough is often wrong. That critical internal narrator telling you you're failing, you're broken beyond repair, you should be better by now. That voice usually speaks lies. It speaks from old wounds, from internalized criticism, from the distorted logic of shame. When that voice speaks, you can notice it. You can say, "That's the trauma talking." You can choose, at least sometimes, not to believe it. It will probably keep talking, but you don't have to accept its authority. Your body is doing the best it can with what it has. Even when your nervous system seems to be working against you, it's actually trying to protect you using outdated strategies. Your anxiety is trying to keep you safe. Your depression is trying to make you rest. Your anger is trying to protect your boundaries. These responses aren't optimal, aren't comfortable, but they come from a place of trying to help. Try thanking your body sometimes for trying so hard. Acknowledge its efforts, even when you wish it would protect you differently. Rest is not weakness. In a culture that glorifies productivity, taking time to rest feels wrong, lazy, indulgent. But for people recovering from chronic stress or trauma, rest is essential medicine. Your nervous system needs downtime to integrate healing, to reset stress responses, to simply not be vigilant for a while. According to research on recovery from 2024, adequate rest significantly improves all other healing interventions. Everything works better when you're rested. Nothing works well when you're exhausted. Rest is resistance. Rest is repair. You contain multitudes. You're not just your trauma, your diagnosis, your struggles. You're also your interests, your humor, your capacity for love, your unique way of seeing the world. Research in identity and recovery from 2025 shows that reclaiming and cultivating aspects of yourself beyond your pain is crucial for sustained healing. What did you love before things got hard? What would you love if the pain eased? Those parts of you are still there, waiting. They're not gone. They're just quiet, overshadowed. But they can grow again if you water them. Comparison steals joy and distorts reality. When you look at others and think they have it easier, you're seeing their outside from your inside. You don't know their struggles, their history, their private pain. They might be looking at you thinking the same thing. According to well-being research from 2024, the comparison habit creates unnecessary suffering. Your journey is yours. Someone else having it worse doesn't invalidate your pain. Someone having it better doesn't mean you're failing. You can only walk your own path. And that path, however difficult, is enough. Asking for help is strength, not weakness. For people who learned they had to handle everything alone, reaching out feels impossible, shameful, like admitting defeat. But research through 2025 consistently shows that help seeking is associated with better outcomes across all measures. Knowing you need support and allowing yourself to receive it is a sophisticated, difficult skill. It requires vulnerability, trust, and the willingness to admit you can't do everything alone. That admission isn't failure. It's wisdom. It's being human. And it's brave. You are more than what happened to you. This bears repeating because trauma has a way of colonizing identity, making you feel like you're nothing but your pain, your history, your struggle. But according to identity research from 2024, you are also how you've responded to what happened, the person you've become, the strength you've developed. You're your kindness, your persistence, your moments of courage. The things that happened shaped you but don't define you. You get to decide what your story means. And you're more than any single chapter. Healing happens in relationship, including your relationship with yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you treat your own struggles, how compassionate or critical you are. This shapes your healing trajectory significantly. Research in self-compassion from 2025 shows that people who practice self-kindness heal faster and more completely. This doesn't mean you have to love yourself all the time. Just treat yourself the way you'd treat someone you care about who's struggling. With patience, with understanding, with the recognition that they're doing their best in difficult circumstances. The fact that you're here, listening to this, means some part of you still hopes things can get better. That hope, however small, however fragile, is significant. According to research on recovery predictors through 2024, hope, even minimal hope, is one of the strongest predictors of positive outcomes. You don't need overwhelming optimism. You don't need certainty. Just a whisper of maybe things could be different is enough. That whisper is enough to keep you trying. And trying is how things actually change. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You don't have to be healed to deserve care. You don't have to have it all together to be valuable. According to research in self-worth and recovery from 2025, your inherent worth isn't conditional on achievement, healing progress, or functioning level. You're worthy because you exist. Period. Not because of what you do, how well you perform, or how quickly you recover. Your worth is inherent, unconditional, non-negotiable, and it doesn't increase or decrease based on your healing trajectory. Every small step counts. Drinking water when you're dehydrated, getting out of bed when it feels impossible, asking for one thing you need. These aren't trivial accomplishments when you're struggling. They're evidence of your will to survive, to keep going, to not give up. Research on behavioral activation from 2024 shows that small actions accumulate into larger changes. Don't discount your small efforts. They're building blocks. Each one is laying foundation for the next. Nothing you do in the direction of healing is too small to matter. It all counts. So, Could people who've gone through too much recover? Research unequivocally says yes. Not overnight, not without effort, but recovery is possible. Your brain can heal. Your nervous system can regulate. Your capacity for connection can rebuild. According to comprehensive trauma recovery data through 2025, with appropriate support, most people can move from merely surviving to genuinely living. The weight you're carrying can become lighter, not disappeared. You'll always know what you've been through, but manageable, integrated, part of your story without being your whole story. You're not alone in this struggle. Millions of people carry similar weight, face similar challenges. Wonder if they'll ever feel normal again. According to epidemiological research from 2024, adverse experiences are common. More common than we often realize because people hide their struggles. But in the privacy of therapists' offices, support groups, late-night conversations, many people are navigating the same terrain you are. You're not uniquely broken. You're humanly wounded. And there's a whole community of humans walking this path with you, even if you can't always see them. Meaning can emerge from suffering without the suffering being necessary or good. This is a delicate balance. You can acknowledge that terrible things happened that shouldn't have happened, and also notice that you've grown, deepened, become more compassionate because of what you've endured. According to meaning-making research from 2025, this isn't justifying the pain or saying it was worth it. It's simply noting that humans have a remarkable capacity to forge significance from even the most difficult experiences. You alchemized pain into wisdom. That's your accomplishment, not trauma's gift. The parts of you that adapted to survive were brilliant. Your defenses, your coping mechanisms, your ways of protecting yourself. They worked. They got you here. They deserve recognition, not criticism. According to adaptive functioning research from 2024, what looks like dysfunction is often sophisticated adaptation to dysfunctional circumstances. Your hypervigilance, your people-pleasing, your emotional walls. These all made sense at the time. Thank them for their service. And when you're ready, gently let them know you might need different strategies now. You're allowed to change your mind about your healing goals. Maybe you thought you wanted to process every memory, confront every person, understand every detail. Or maybe you thought you'd never need therapy, never take medication, never talk about what happened. You're allowed to adjust. According to treatment planning research from 2025, flexible goals that evolve with your needs lead to better outcomes. Healing isn't a contract you're bound to. It's a journey you navigate as you learn what actually helps. Change course when you need to. Your sensitivity, if you have it, is not a curse. Highly sensitive nervous systems feel everything more intensely. Pain, yes, but also beauty, connection, meaning. According to research on sensory processing sensitivity from 2024, this trait has evolutionary advantages. Sensitive people notice things others miss, process information more deeply, feel empathy more readily. In safe environments, sensitivity is a gift. In traumatic ones, it's a burden. But the sensitivity itself isn't the problem. The unsafe environment was. Your sensitivity, properly supported, can become one of your greatest strengths. Forgive yourself for survival responses you wish you hadn't needed, for freezing when you wish you'd fought, for staying when you wish you'd left, for leaving when you wish you'd stayed. According to trauma psychology through 2025, guilt over survival responses is common but unfounded. You responded with the resources and information you had in that moment. You did what you needed to do to survive. That might look imperfect in retrospect, but it worked. You're here. Release the guilt. You did nothing wrong. There will be good days ahead. Not perfect days. Not pain-free days necessarily, but days when you laugh genuinely. Days when you feel connected to someone. Days when your body feels peaceful. Days when you notice something beautiful and feel actual joy. According to longitudinal recovery studies from 2024, as healing progresses, the ratio of difficult days to bearable days shifts, gradually, incrementally, but measurably. More good days emerge. The hard days still come, but they don't dominate as completely. That shift is coming. Keep going. You're teaching yourself something your younger self needed to learn, that it's possible to face difficulty and survive it. Every time you work through a trigger, set a boundary, or choose self-compassion over self-criticism, you're proving to your nervous system that you can handle hard things. According to resilience development research from 2025, this self-efficacy, the belief in your own capability, builds over time through accumulated evidence. You're creating that evidence now. Each small success is teaching your system we can do hard things. We can survive. We're okay. The story you tell yourself about what happened matters, not because you can change the facts, but because the meaning you make shapes your healing. According to narrative therapy research through 2024, people who construct narratives where they're not just victims but also survivors, agents, people who responded and are now growing, show better outcomes. This isn't about positive spin or denying pain. It's about choosing which truth to emphasize, the pain inflicted or the strength demonstrated. Both are true. Your strength has been present throughout, even when you couldn't see it. Choose to see it now. It's there. And so we arrive at the answer to our question. Why do people go through too much? Because life sometimes presents challenges that exceed available resources. Because systems fail. Because hurt people hurt people. Because the world is sometimes unjust. But here's the deeper truth: going through too much changes you. But it doesn't define you. You are who you were before, plus everything you learned surviving. You are wounded and wise, scarred and strong, tired and still here. The weight you've carried has been real, has been heavy, and you've carried it anyway. That's not weakness. That's the most profound strength there is. And so, our quiet journey through the psychology of carrying too much comes to a gentle close. We've traveled from the neuroscience of overwhelm to the practiced hope of recovery, discovering along the way that healing isn't about erasing what happened, but learning to carry it differently. From understanding why your nervous system stays activated to seeing how connection rewires isolation, we've glimpsed how the human mind is both vulnerable to injury and capable of remarkable repair. You've been carrying a weight that was too heavy for anyone to carry alone, and yet you've carried it anyway. One day at a time, one breath at a time. That persistence, that stubborn continuation in the face of pain, is its own form of quiet heroism. The psychology of resilience reminds us that humans are wired for healing, for connection, for meaning-making even in the darkest circumstances. The nervous system can recalibrate. The brain can rewire. The heart can risk opening again. By pausing to understand your own responses, by treating yourself with the compassion you deserved all along, you're not just surviving anymore. You're beginning the slow, sacred work of reclaiming your life. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can. As deep as possible, think about how every person listening to this has carried something. Every human you've ever met has struggled with something you couldn't see. You're not separate in your pain. You're connected in your humanity. Feel yourself as part of something larger, a vast community of people who've been through too much and are still here, still trying, still hoping. Let your entire being dissolve into that shared human experience. The struggle, the persistence, the quiet, stubborn hope. Prepare for deep sleep now. No boundaries left between you and rest. Only peace. Only the gentle darkness that holds all of us. Equally, with infinite patience. If this thoughtful exploration of resilience helped you relax, brought you understanding, or made you feel less alone tonight, a gentle like and subscribe helps other tired minds discover this peaceful space too. It only takes a moment, but it means the world to us. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. But there's no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. You've traveled far tonight, through difficult terrain, examining what it means to carry more than any person should have to carry. You can allow these thoughts to fade now, like evening light dissolving into dusk, leaving only the peaceful darkness behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if gravity itself is gently pulling you down into the safety of your bed, into the earth, into rest. If sleep comes, let it carry you like water carries a leaf on its surface, effortlessly, inevitably, into a realm where thinking stops and healing continues in the silence. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe now, that holds you without judgment, that asks nothing of you except that you rest. Tomorrow, the work of healing will still be there. Connection will still be possible. Growth will still be happening in ways you can't see. But tonight belongs to surrender, to letting the world hold you instead of you holding the world. Rest well, weary traveler, and remember, you've carried something impossibly heavy, and you've done it with more grace than you probably recognize. The weight was real, and so is your strength. Both can be true at once. Relax, listen, and drift into sleep. Good night.